Hi, welcome to my video vlog today. Today's question or issue that I want to tackle is the idea of how can wilderness therapy help a child with identity, and a child being a young adult or an adolescent. And I'll start at the beginning. The first thing is it's the removal of all the distractions, even those distractions which might be healthy distractions. You know, the removal of the opinions of others, even of loved ones. Sometimes that distance creates an opportunity to find one's own voice. And the thing I want to say connected to that is the most important ingredient in a healthy relationship is a developed self. So what we're trying to do is create a building block, the building block for intimacy, which is a more complete and developed self. So as we begin to answer our own questions, as we begin to quiet the voices of others, the opinions of others, even the reactions of others, we can more easily begin to identify who we are. I think one of the most powerful things I've ever seen in therapy happens in wilderness through letter writing. It's that opportunity to put your truth down on paper and send it out and have to wait 2 or 3 days to get a response. It really requires you to search for the truth instead of, like we do in most relationships, try to speak to the audience, right? Try to gauge what we're saying with their reaction. So letter writing is a really powerful form of therapy and of family therapy in this process. Another thing that happens in wilderness therapy that cannot be understated is the sense of efficacy, the sense of what I do makes a difference. We know this from the research, that internal locus of control, that being the idea of what I do makes a difference versus what happens to me makes the biggest difference. That internal locus of control improves over the course of a child or young adult stay in wilderness. So the experience of finding out who I am by what I can accomplish, by what I can achieve, by the tasks that I can master. That's a really important part of wilderness. And in primitive living, even more so than in some adventure models, we can see how people get a sense of satisfaction, get a sense of who they are by the challenges that they accomplish in the process. So I think the quieting of the voices, I talk with parents about this idea of how distance creates differentiation. It creates a sense of who you are, that the more distance there is, the more ability we have to hear our own voices becomes very, very powerful. And then you have a staff and a small peer group that provide a mirror for the process. And so there's very few interventions I've ever seen that more effectively and more quickly help a child or a young adult to develop a sense of who they are. And then with that sense of who they are, they're more capable of being in a healthy relationship with peers, with parents, with other people in their lives. Because the only extent that we can have intimacy is based on who we are. And I'll say one last thing before I close this out. Sometimes one of the challenges for parents is over-identification, right? A parent over-identifies. We call it enmeshment in therapy or fusion. And we think of it sometimes it's described as too much love, right? It's just the excess of love. When really, over-identification is a kind of abandonment. Because if I'm over-identified with my child, by definition, I've erased part of them in that equation. So I think for parents, there is the development of clear identity. I've had phone calls with parents. I've had discussions with parents where they get very, very clear with what they want to say, what they feel, what their truth is in relationship to their child. And then when their child gets on the phone or they visit their child, they lose themselves. I think we can all relate to that experience. I had one story years ago where an adolescent young man was working on a lot of assignments. He wanted to earn the privilege and the opportunity to have a phone call with his parents, and we wanted him to do some basic identity work first. And then he got some very difficult news from one of his parents. One of his parents said they were going into treatment themselves. And when he got this, he was overwhelmed with a bunch of feelings that flooded in. And although he had worked very hard and was very eager to talk to his parents, he actually said to me, I need to take some time. I'm not ready to talk to my parents this week because I'm afraid that if I do, I'll lose myself. Because in their presence, I tend to do that. I tend to lose track of my truth and who I am. So I think that's a powerful illustration of how wilderness therapy, how the distance in wilderness therapy, how the tools in wilderness therapy, how the experience of primitive living can all add up to help somebody develop a greater sense of themselves, a clearer sense of themselves and their truth, and then provide the opportunity to have a more intimate and healthy relationship. So I hope this vlog is helpful and that you find the answers you need here on our website. Thank you.